And, oh, hold on. Jen had one more question. Do they need all the color programming loaded or get a chance to put correct one up individually? So Jen, the robot, they should put the color sample in front of the sensor, however they have that planned out, and you should be able to do that. And then the robot should sense what color it is on its own, and then the robot should drive to the correct position. So they shouldn't be like visually looking at the color with their own eyes and then selecting the correct code. The robot should do that itself. Okay, if they did it totally how we intended. That's kind of what makes it interesting, is them being able to, the robot being able to sense something and then decide what to do. Okay, let's go ahead and get started, guys. Thank you for joining me. This is just the third Mission Advisor Support session. So mostly the intent is to help you guys wrap up the challenge with your students through final challenge events and finishing the MOs, submitting the final results, and then I'll give you guys a little bit of information on some team recognition and the Kennedy Space Center drawing. So this is just a quick outline of what I'll go over today. If you guys want to throw something in the chat while I'm talking, I'll try to pay attention to it. If I totally ignore it, you can always say something to get my attention, and I'll try to look over there. Yeah, I'm just going to try to make this one a little bit shorter. And then again, I'll open up time for questions at the end. So well, let's get started. Okay, so your students should already be working on the mission development log. Hopefully it's almost done at this point. So I talked about this in the first mission advisor support session. So you guys could go back and look at those slides and watch that recording if you want to have a review. But there's also just a lot of information on the template itself. So I just wanted to kind of quickly go over again what's required in terms of the final submission of the mission development log and some of our new rules this year about the length of it and things like that, so that we get good submissions. And a lot of these rules, they're just like practical ones for NESP. We don't have a lot of staff to look over these MDLs. We want to look at all of them in a meaningful way. So some of the rules regarding the links and stuff like that, just make sure that they don't get so long that it takes us a really long time to look at them. If you want to have students have longer ones, of course, they can make longer ones, and then you guys can just condense it down to in terms of what you send us. But yeah, the mission development log, again, this is for students to keep track of their work and show us what they did. And you really only have to include slides in your MDL for all of the mission objectives that you completed. So teams are not required to complete every single mission objective, however many they wanted to do or had time to do. So if you guys have slides in there for ones that they didn't even attempt, just go ahead and delete them. You can add slides to the template, but the template in general should be less than 50 slides, including the blue slides, which are part of the template that we ask you to keep in there when you submit it. And then there's also yellow slides in the template, and you can delete those before you submit it. It does have to be submitted as a PDF, so there's no option to like upload a link or anything like that. So just whether it's in PowerPoint or on Google Slides, just download it or save it as a PDF before uploading it. And then if you do have pictures in there of your students' faces, make sure that each of the students that are shown has a NASA media release form signed and included. If you have a student that doesn't have a form and you have pictures with their face in it, maybe just put have them put like a star or something over their face. That way we just make sure that we don't accidentally use an image that we don't have permission to use. And then again, these don't have to be super fancy. They're meant to be completed by the students. So don't feel like you have to go back in there and make them perfect on your own. They should be completed by the students with help from you. Okay, so again, I'm not going to go through this in a ton of detail because it's all there and you guys have probably seen it, but The yellow slides are direction slides. You can delete them. So this is one that goes through and talks about some of the stuff that I just said in terms of like what you put in there for capturing your work and the formats. This is the slide where you can upload these media release forms. You can just, if it's signed, and you can get these on our website. And there's also links in the original template for these media release forms. Once they're signed by all the students are minors, they have to be signed by the guardian of the student. You can just take a picture of it and then just paste it on this slide so that we know that they're there. Yeah. Okay. Please do include this nice title slide with team name, team number, and mission patch image. Again, this is going to help us identify which MDL goes with which team, and the team number is the main way that we keep track of teams, because sometimes the team names are similar or even exactly the same between different teams. So make sure to include your team number in your final submission, or else we might get confused about which team we're talking about. The table of contents is also important. And of course, you don't have to have an entry in here if you didn't do the mission objective. Okay, the NASA expert talks, this is how you can show evidence. Your team can show evidence of which talk they went to or listen to the recording of. If they weren't able to attend the talk live, the recordings are on our YouTube page. So that's what's on this next page here. So if you go to our YouTube page, which is just YouTube NWESSP, you can watch both or either of the talks. Some of them look a little long. The talk themselves they're both less than half an hour. And then the extra time is questions that students had asked at the end, question and response. So yeah, if your team did not get a chance to come to those live, I do recommend that they watch the recording. And then, yeah, for each mission objective, you've got this blue slide that has guidance for each MO. Don't delete this before you make your final submission. Keep this in there. And this has some information for the checkpoints, which you guys, that's already passed. But again, it has your final submission guidelines on the right-hand side. And then you've got as many white slides as you need to describe what you did in that particular mission objective. And normally what we want to see here is, of course, images of the students doing the work, but remember that each mission objective has deliverables. So we're going to be looking to see that your team completed whatever the age-appropriate deliverables are for that mission objective. So that's the evidence here. And again, it doesn't have to be super fancy, the formatting and all that stuff. It should be work of the student. So we're not going to be grading it for spelling and things like that. So it's more important that we see something that the student completed rather than something that's perfect. Okay, so there are directions in the template for submitting your MDL, and it's all the stuff that I just talked about. So again, if you forget what this information is, just look at the yellow slides. But the most important things are make sure that the length is appropriate and that you save it as a PDF, because that's the only way the form won't accept any other type of file. There is a limit to the size of the file you can submit, but I think especially if you're saving it as a PDF, I think everyone should be okay there unless you've got something really crazy in terms of images going on in your MDL. Okay, so what to submit and when? So I'm sure, again, you guys have been doing this for months. You're probably eager to just make the submission and call it a day. So the final submission we're calling re-entry, and the deadline is June 5th, 2024. And so what you are going to be submitting, and I'm going to go through the form in a second, but in terms of the team results, the main thing you're submitting is the MDL. And if you are a team that was not able to go to an in-person challenge event, you will also be submitting a final challenge video. I'll talk about that in a second. The re-entry submission form is up on our website right now, so you guys could go submit it today if you are ready to submit it. And I will show you that form in a second. Okay, so I'm gonna just pause there. Does anyone have questions about the MDL? I'm sure you guys don't. You've been looking at it. I just wanted to make sure we reminded you guys about the rules around that. Feel free. Yeah, then your team can submit it without final expert talks. That's fine. Yep. It's just whatever they did. But if they did do the 2 final expert talks, then or NASA expert talks, then they can show us evidence of that. Okay. Any other questions? No, Jen, they have to do all of the mission objectives to be eligible for the drawing. That's the rule. And I'll talk about that in a second. That's kind of how we reward teams for their work. Yeah. It's still good learning though, even if they don't, become eligible for the trip. Okay, so this will be quick because a lot of the in-person challenge events have already happened. So I just wanted to put this in there in case there's somebody going to one that's coming up that has questions. So we did have, let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We got 7 in-person final challenge events. We just had ours at CWU last Saturday, so we're resting up from that, and it was a really fun experience. And some of you guys were there, and it was really fun. And I just looked at a bunch of the images and videos of the teams. So hopefully everybody that's here gets an opportunity to go to one at some point. But there are 3 that are still coming up. So the one in Texas is coming up fairly soon on May 18th. The Montana one is on a Tuesday on May 21st. And the Arizona one is the last one, that's on June 1st. The way that we had teams register for this was doing that lunar flyby submission, the last submission. And I just want to say that if you didn't make that submission, it's unlikely you will be able to go to one of these events. However, you might, if you're close to one of the events and maybe don't need lodging, you could try to email the coordinator at this point and see if they would allow you guys to come anyways. Like the Arizona event, probably the best chance for that, but it is probably too late to get travel support because that takes some time. We got a question in the chat that says, are you going to provide a challenge map of the event? So yeah, the challenge map is provided at the event. And that's one that we printed off. So yeah, they'll have a challenge map. That's a good question. So what should teams bring to this event? They should bring, and you hopefully will get more information specifically from your hub coordinator because they're all a little different, but they should definitely bring their robot, all built and programmed. If you have been programming it with a portable computer like an iPad or a laptop, I would recommend bringing that as well. If you've been programming with a desktop, obviously can't bring it. But it's nice to maybe have, because the students may have some time to work on their program at the event as well. So robot, computer, they need to bring their rocket, the final form of their rocket. And then at our event, we had students present their MDL, and some teams brought some of the other things that they had done for their mission objectives. Like some of them brought their habitat, some of them brought the plant experiment. That's optional, but if they want, they could bring those things as well. Okay, but you don't have to bring the map, and you don't have to bring the rocket launcher. Those are provided at the event. Okay. Just to remind you guys, there is some information about the in-person challenge events in Mission Objective 8 in terms of what's going to be happening at each event to help your team prepare. And then also be on the lookout for emails from your hub coordinator for information about your specific event. And you can always reach out to them as well if you have questions. And their emails are on this slide. I will post these slides on our main challenge webpage if you need to review it to find that email. Okie dokie. So a lot of teams, most teams, dare I say, are not close enough or not able to come to one of these in-person events, unfortunately. So we do have an option to make virtual challenge submissions, and that's what's described in MO8B. And basically what we're asking these teams to do is to record a video of their rocket launching. That's the virtual launch phase. And then also describe their rocket. So just kind of show it in the video and describe why they designed it the way they did. and do a post-flight analysis. So how well did the rocket fly? Do you think, is it broken, right? Did one of the fins rip off or could it fly again? And then the virtual surface navigation phase is a video of their rover actually doing the challenge, so delivering the payloads on either the map that they made, homemade by putting the targets in the right locations, or a printed final challenge map like what we have at the event. There's a little bit more information there, but basically that should be a pretty quick part of the video because it doesn't take the rover that long to deliver all of the samples. The final submission video, you don't have to show anything about the code. That's going to be put in the MDL. And then there's also the teams that went to in-person events also presented some of their other mission objectives. So part of that video can also be teams showcasing some of the other things they did as part of the challenge. So their mission patch, their habitat, which was mission objective 4, their plant growth experiment, and other things like that. Whatever they completed, they can spend the rest of the time sharing. The video itself needs to be less than 10 minutes. So, you know, make sure they don't go way over time on that, and they can edit it down, or it can just be kind of one thing after the other. Okay. Questions on that? I'll take a little break here. Okay. This is going to be really boring talk, but it's important for me to show you this form because a lot of people either don't fill it out correctly or have questions about filling it out. So I want to quickly go through. It's really like the simplest, I think, of all the forms you guys have had to do, the final submission form, because it's just uploading the results. But of course, the first page of it is just asking for team information. So that's the team number, team name, team category, and then the mission advisor information. Please use the same team number and team name submitted during Lunar Flyby. If you made that submission, if you guys remember, we allowed you guys to consolidate teams if you needed to switch student team members around at that time. That was kind of your last opportunity. So don't come up with a new team name at this point because we'll get confused about how that corresponds. I'll talk about that in 1 second, Alicia. And then if you can't find your team number or team name, check your email, because every time you fill out one of these forms, it should send you a confirmation email that you filled out the form with all of the stuff that you actually put in there. So when you guys registered, you should have got an email with the team number. And all the emails are from Northwest Earth and Space Sciences Pathways. Sometimes they end up in your spam, so double check there. But that's a good thing to have written down right at the beginning anyways. So Karen, you can only upload one video. So try to put all the 3 things into a single video. And if you need help doing that, we can help you, but there's only one place, there's only one thing that you can upload a video to. I'll show you that in 1 second. Okay, so the student information. So based on the number of students on your team, you'll enter that in this top box, and then this form will expand. So you'll have basically this information to enter for each student on your team. Again, for this challenge, we only had a maximum of 6 students per team. And we're asking for the name, the age, the gender, and the race or ethnicity. The demographic things, age, gender, race, and ethnicity, we report that to NASA generally. All of these science activation programs do have requirements in terms of what types of students we're reaching, and we need to just tell NASA basically this information as part of the grant. And if we get the information completely and are able to communicate that with them, then that does help us kind of be a strong program and ensure future funding. So we do appreciate you guys submitting that information. We're asking for the name of the student exclusively so we can put it on a certificate, the certificate of completion. We do not share the name with NASA. So the name, the actual information is not associated with a particular student when we submit that to NASA. It's just a bulk number that we submit. But yeah, for the name, make sure you're just putting whatever the student's preferred name is on there and spelling it correctly. We're not going to resend certificates if the information submitted is incorrect, because it's just a little bit too much work for us to do that. And then we will be sending all this stuff in mid-June. So I know a lot of the teachers will be in summertime at that point. So put whatever mailing address you think that is best for you. So if that's your home address, that's fine. It's not going to be a huge package that's going to be sent to you. And then unfortunately, it's kind of up to you guys to distribute the material, which I know can be hard in the summer, but if you want to wait until the students come back to school next year, that's fine too. That's kind of the timing of things. And then, okay, so the final submission. So this is what this form will look like for submitting the actual MDL. So I'll have you just click which mission objectives the team you considered to be complete for the team, which NASA expert talks that team attended, and then you will upload the PDF just by dragging it or clicking on this box and uploading it into the form directly. And again, this form will only accept PDFs. So don't try to upload a PowerPoint or else you will get an error and it won't let you proceed to the, like basically the next button won't be highlighted if you don't upload the correct type of file. If you attended an in-person event, you'll just click this box. You don't have to submit anything about the in-person events. We know that you attended. We've got records of that. So you just click this box. If you are submitting virtually, you click this, and I'm going to show you on the next slide that you just have basically another location to upload another file. This next part basically allows you to either opt in or opt out of the Kennedy drawing. There may be some teams that would prefer not to travel at that time. So if you're one of those teams, then you just let us know and we won't put you in the drawing. And then this is just letting us know that you submitted your Horizon survey. So I'm just going to quickly plug that. So again, science activation team is evaluated by a company. We are evaluated by Horizon Research, Inc. You guys should have all gotten a pre-survey for the challenge. It's a short thing. They also need everybody to complete the post-survey with students. Again, this is the kind of information that we are required to compile and submit to NASA. That's how they evaluate our project. And it's also just useful information for us. All of that information that Horizon collects, like they analyze it and they report it back to our team so that we can improve the challenge and make it more effective for you and your students. So please do that if you can. And if you didn't get the email from them, they should have emailed you directly. There's a note in here that you can email them and be like, hey, I never got the post survey. Can you email me? This is our team name and number. And they will gladly email you the post survey. Okay, so what does it look like? So if you went to an in-person event, that part is done. We saw your robot, we saw your rocket, we're happy. If you are submitting stuff virtually, then click on we are submitting virtually. Another thing will pop up and you can either upload a file for the video. So click on that and you'll get a thing that allows you to upload a file. You can provide a link and then just put the URL in there. If you do choose to provide a link, please make sure that we have permission to view that link, particularly if it's like a Google, if it's in some Google folder, just make sure that you either open it up to anyone with the link can view, or at least give info@nesp.org the ability to view that file. We'll probably like try one time to get permission to view it, and then we'll just move on because we get a lot of files that we can't view. And then you can also just say, we're not going to do that. We're not going to upload something. In theory, Karen, we'd love to have it be completed by all team members, but sometimes we know that there are practical issues where that can't happen. So just do the best you can, I guess. Yeah. So sorry, the question was, what if the survey is completed by some team members, but not all of them? So in a lot of that stuff, by the way, how we see it, again, a lot of it is like a conglomerate of all of the participants. So like bar graphs of what all the participants said pre-challenge and then bar graphs of what everybody said post. So it's not necessarily, we could, if we wanted to, look student by student, I think, although it's all anonymous. So we can't say like which student submitted what, but we don't really go in at that level. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Okay, so the video itself, we're hoping to just we're only allowing one video to be uploaded per team. So they have to be clever with their editing. And you can do that in YouTube. There's lots of ways to do that. Okay. All right. The main thing I just want to remind you guys, after you do all that, so that's the end of this submission form. Like I said, it should be pretty quick. You do get a preview of everything you submitted, but you have not fully submitted it yet. It has this box in there that's like, hey, this is a preview, so you can look over everything. You can go back and change stuff if you need to. And then at the bottom of this page, there's the final submit button. So make sure to go all the way to the bottom and submit that. And then if you did it correctly, you should get an email confirming that you made your final submission. And then you're good. Woohoo. Okay. Any questions on that? The form. That'll feel good. You can go take yourself out for a nice meal after that, because I know you guys have been working really hard to get to that point. Yeah, it's okay if students quit. We know that happens. So yeah, Jessica asks, is it okay if someone quits since the lunar flyby? Yeah, we know that team members drop out for all kinds of reasons. It's a very long commitment for team members to make. So yeah, and in fact, the way I consider it, that student, if they did work on the project, even if they're not in it till the very end, they still participated. So feel free to include them in their final submission and include them in the MDL if you think that they did sufficient work, even if they're like not currently meeting with the team. That's kind of up to you guys. But yeah, just don't add anybody at the last minute. But yeah. Okay, any other questions on that? All right, so team recognition information and Kennedy Space Center information. So in the past, I'll just say we've had some extra supplies and things to send out. We had a lot of teams register this year, so we probably are not going to send out as much stuff as we have in the past. But all teams that make a final challenge submission will get a certificate of completion. And then teams that are making a virtual submission, so these are teams that did not go to a final challenge event, those teams tend to get a little bit of extra when they go to these events. So for the virtual teams, we will send out some extra goodies for them just to kind of even it up a little bit. Yes, so now that's a good question. All of the hub events will have meals provided for both the students and the mission advisors or the adult mentors that are traveling with them. And you should get an agenda, but in general, like you guys should have all the meals covered. You may not have obviously the meals when you're traveling, but if you're there for breakfast, you'll have breakfast. If you're there for lunch, you'll have lunch. We're trying to get you guys fed because that's important. I think we had too much food at our hub event. Okay, but that's what you're going to be getting. So a certificate, some extra goodies. Like I said, it's not going to be a huge box. It will be like a flat pack of stuff. And the Kennedy Space Center. Okay, so to be eligible for the Kennedy Space Center drawing, teams must have satisfactorily, okay, so there's a nice general word for you, completed all MOs, so every single mission objective, and address the age-appropriate deliverables in the MDL. So there's deliverables for each category of ages of students. Teams do not, what's meant by satisfactory, that means I'm going to look at it and say, like, is this just something thrown together at the last minute, or did the teams truly attempt to complete this mission objective? Did they spend time and effort doing it? That doesn't necessarily mean that it had to be a successful mission objective attempt. In particular, like the plant growth one, like some people probably tried really hard to get good plants growing in the regolith and maybe they weren't successful at that. That's not going to hurt your team, but I would like to have evidence of a good attempt. Basically, we're looking for a delta, right? We want to see that the teams started from a certain level of knowledge or experience and they increased it. So if I've got a team that has a lot of robotics experience, maybe I'm going to expect them to have totally completed the robotics challenge. But if your team has never programmed a Lego robot before, this is their very first time, then the expectations on the robotics is going to be different. They do have to have either attended or watched a recording of both NASA expert talks. So if their team hasn't done that, there's still time. They're on the YouTube page. And then they either have to have attended the in-person final challenge event or submitted a final challenge video. So if you want your team to be eligible for this drawing and you don't or can't go to an in-person event, please make sure they do make that video showing the robot driving and the rocket launching and submit that during the final submission. And that sounds like a lot of work, but I think students, they love making the videos on the TikTok or whatever. So hopefully they're pretty good at that by now. Okay, so Kennedy Space Center, we're gonna wait till the deadline and then we've got to look at all the results. So we'll probably draw for who gets to go about 2 weeks after June 5th. Out of the teams that are eligible, we will select 6 Astrovan and 6 Crawler division teams. The teams will be notified via email, and we'll also have like a short virtual final ceremony that you don't have to attend even if you're a winning team, but we'll also announce it during that. And all the traveling students, so if your team happens to be lucky enough to win, all of the students that come must have been registered to the winning team. So that means at the very last minute, even if some of the team members can't come, you can't add students that weren't on the team to fill it out to 6. We're only going to be taking team members that actually participated in the challenge or on the MDL. We're part of the lunar flyby submission. Unfortunately, if you're advising one of the younger teams, the Pegasus teams, they're just a little bit too young to travel on this trip. So the Pegasus teams are not eligible. That was in the challenge manual from the beginning. And then same thing, team members must also be older than 11. Oh, what region you're in. So we've got the country broken up into 5 regions. So if you, the regions are kind of split up to be equal number of teams that have been participating per region. So we're trying to make it as fair as possible. I'll put it that way. But you're in the Montana region. Okay. So more stuff about this. So the trip is going to take place for like a 4-day window between August 11th and the 17th. That's the time that works best for us and Kennedy Space Center. The mission advisor hopefully will be able to go with the team. If you cannot go with the team, you can recommend a suitable backup, another teacher, or even a parent. That person's going to have to be background checked if they were not part of your original contract. And unfortunately, you guys have to collect more liability forms if we don't have them already. We need them for this particular experience. And if we go into the facilities, some of NASA's facilities, they have their own forms that need to be signed. So you'll have to communicate with the students' guardians to get those forms. One of the reasons why we don't take the younger kids is that we can't, with our grant, pay for other parents and family members or other adults to travel with the team members. So even if they are there, they happen to be in Florida at the same time, they cannot come to our events. They cannot eat with us. They can't come to Kennedy Space Center. All of the adults traveling with the minors have to have gone through our background checks and signed our contracts. So we can't add in extra adults into our experience for safety concerns. And then again, if all that doesn't sound great to you or won't work for your team, just opt out of the drawing when you submit the final form. Okay, yeah, Jessica asked, what if we get picked for the trip and our school requires 2 chaperones, 1 for each gender? Jessica, let's go ahead and cross that bridge when we get there. We may be able to satisfy your school's requirements because we will have we bring our own extra chaperones. NESB, we have employees that come travel with us to make sure that we have an appropriate number of adults per student and we don't mix student genders in the rooms. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there. If it's totally required, we may be able to make an exception for your school. All right, so there's one more, that's kind of the end of the Kennedy Space Center stuff. So if you guys have questions about that, go ahead and put them in the chat. Kind of what we can do when we're there depends on what's going on down there, whether there are rocket launches or not rocket launches, like some are scheduled way far in advance and then SpaceX is just launching rockets all the time. And then whether or not we can go in like the vehicle assembly building, which is in that picture, kind of again depends on what NASA is doing while we're there. But there's always a lot of fun things to see. And we will go to the beach again. Jen, you can win 2 years. In theory, you can win 2 years in a row. Yeah, we've had the same mission advisor go twice in a row, but it was different students, and that's more of what we're hoping because, yeah, we don't want to necessarily take the same students over and over again, but we know if the team is eligible, they did the work, then they're going in the drawing. Okay. All right, so there will be hopefully a virtual meet an astronaut. Trying to get an astronaut through NASA's official channels is not as, I mean, it's smooth, but the astronauts are busy, so they don't let us know until kind of the last minute. So I'm still hoping that fall comes through, and then if that doesn't, then we might just end up getting a retired astronaut. But you just check your email about that. The Meet a Virtual Astronaut window is in June, right after the final submission. And so we don't know the exact time or date, but we will let you guys know. And if this does happen, we'll combine it with the Artemis Roads 2 virtual ceremony. Okay, so just keep an eye on your calendar and your email for that. All righty. Okay, that was my like details of the final submissions and recognition. Happy to answer any questions about that. And then I'm going to put this slide up. If anybody needs any last minute help completing a mission objective or something like that, I'm also available for those types of questions. So that's what I have for my presentation. I'm going to go ahead and stop the share here. And feel free to either put it in the chat or unmute yourself if you have a question. Let's see. Oh, how many total teams? That's a good question. So we had 400 teams register. I think we had about 300 do the lunar flyby submission. So it's a good number this year of teams. You know, how many teams will do all the mission objectives? It's going to be much fewer than that, I think. But yeah, so a lot of teams. Any other questions, guys? Oh yeah, let's see. Can you put the video of the rover? Oh, let me show you guys that again. So that if you guys weren't here, let's see. Just to make it really obvious. This is a team, again, you're not supposed to drive over the magenta parts.
Good, guys.
I wish I hadn't put the sound on here.
Nice.
Mute it. There we go. And but you know, these guys, they didn't drive over the magenta, it's just their claw, and they're pushing the sample, but you can also pick up the sample. Some teams just had it, like we're holding it. But notice how she's putting the different colors in there, and then the robot is sensing the color, and then it's driving to the location. It leaves it there, and then it goes back to the start. That's what we want to see. Oh, you can't see it. Gosh, I forgot. I stopped sharing. Okay. Kind of on top of my game here. Not really. Where did my Zoom controls go? There they are. Okay, let me show it one more time. All right. I'll start at the beginning here. Okay, so she put the green one in there. It'll show her loading the red sample in a second. It drops it off at the green target. That nailed it right in the middle. Goes back to the start. We were letting teams move their rover around a little bit here if they needed to. So notice she gives a little hand assist. That's okay. Make sure it's perfectly lined up. And then she put the red one in. The robot, they didn't have to do any programming. The robot just sensed the color, and then it went to red, dropped it off. And again, you're not really supposed to drive over the pink. You know, that's okay here. And then it came back. Okay. All right. Let me find the chat again. Got too many windows open. Okie dokie. Will next year be similar to this year? Yeah, so Michelle, that's a good question. We don't officially announce what it's going to be quite yet, but I will tell you it will be, yeah, it will be similar. It will be different, but similar. They always have a robotics component, so that will be similar, but the challenge itself will be different. We try to change it a little bit, but not too much every year. That's kind of what our goal is now. So Jen, it's kind of okay, but we kind of don't want them driving over the pink. So if you can challenge your students to not drive over the pink, that's what they're supposed to do. Yeah, the magenta, it's supposed to be like obstacles, man-made or natural, that they're not supposed to drive over. Okay, other questions for me? So the Pegasus teams, like it's kind of up to you. I think I'm trying to remember the mission objective. I don't think we actually had any differentiation. I think they had the same challenge as the other teams. But if you wanted to make the grade school component for that mission objective a little bit easier, you could just have them not drop off the sample. If you can have them like see the green one and then drive to the green one, and then not worrying about necessarily either transporting or dropping off the sample, that makes it a little bit easier. But yeah, they should be trying to do something similar. Yeah, that's okay. If you can't, again, especially if it's your first time doing it, don't feel like you have to do everything. It is a lot to take on. So no worries about it. Yeah. And if you guys, like I said, that's kind of the end of my presentation. So if you guys don't have questions, feel free to drop off. I know everybody's busy, but yeah, thank you guys for all the hard work you do. And, we just saw a lot of students, and even if they don't win the Kennedy trip, I know that a lot of them really are engaged and enjoy the challenge. So thank you guys for enabling them to have that experience. That's kind of the main point of it. It's not for the prizes at the end. Okay, any questions? Feel free. It's a small group. Don't be shy. Okay.
Darcy, all my question
Yeah, go
was
ahead.
answered in the section. Thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you guys so much. Yeah, do it again. Yes. That's the
Yeah,
point.
so
Every year you do it, it gets a little easier, I promise. Sorry, somebody messaged
no
me
problem.
to do it again. Yeah.
So our team was at the expo this last
Yeah, yes.
and like trying not to cry, but all four kids walked away with such a love for the sciences.
Oh, good.
And oh gosh, sorry, they're like 9 and 8-year-olds, and they are like over the moon excited about everything science. And I heard more about center of mass and center of pressure from this 9-year-old kid than
Yes.
I ever expected. He can't calculate the square foot of a square, but he can tell you about center of mass and center of pressure and
Yeah.
why that's important. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you. You guys do all the hard work. So I am so happy to hear that. Yeah, your team crushed it too. But yeah, it's easy for us to forget like how cool this is for students, and they're doing these things for the first time. And then, yeah, when I was a little kid, I did this stuff. I went to space camp and totally changed my whole life, I think. So you guys are doing good work. Okay, if you guys don't have any questions, I will let you go off for the rest of your day. Thank you for joining me. And yes, thank you guys. I know it's near the end. It's a lot of work, so we appreciate all the extra time you guys put in. Bye. I will. Jen, I am coming to Montana. Let me look at what the date is. Let's see if it's up on their website. Hold on. So Montana Learning Center is a NSBE partner, and I'm talking there this summer, but I can never remember what date it is. Let's see. Student programs, astronomy. Oh, it's not on the, oh, it is. Okay. I will be there on June 28th and June 29th in Helena. Here, I'll put a link in the chat. Oh, I'm sending that just to Karen. Sorry. Let's see. Everyone in the meeting. Talk in Montana. It's in Helena. We're by Canyon Ferry Lake. So yeah. And Montana Learning Center, by the way, they're not free camp, although they do have a high school level one that is free for NSBE participants called Montana Aerospace Scholars. So it's a great place to send students to overnight camp. It's on the lake. They get to do science and actually have fun, go boating and things like that. So you can check that out. But yeah, I'm from Montana for everybody else that's here. That's why Jen is. And actually my family had a cabin on Canyon Ferry, so it's fun to go back there. Okay, like I said, if you guys want to peel off, or if you're waiting at the last minute for an individual question, I'll be the last one to leave, but thank you for all you do. Oh, so cool. Yay, moon tree. Very cool. That hopefully it grows successfully. Yeah. Bye, Jen. Thank you. Good to see you. Or not see you. Good to see your name.
Yeah, we got it this week actually, and planted it today, and it's pouring
Oh
down.
my
right
gosh.
now.
How
So
big is it when you get it? Is it?
It was about maybe 20 inches tall. It came from the Forestry Service in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Okay.
So they shipped it out Monday. We got it yesterday. It spent the night in my classroom. The kids like were looking at it like it's gonna glow or something.
Yeah.
They were so excited. I had a team of students that actually worked on the proposal, for me to
Yeah.
submit through the artifact module. And we did this in October because it was due like the 1st of October.
Yeah.
And didn't hear anything until April. And so the kids had already given up, like, we didn't get it. We're not
Yeah.
gonna, but when we got the message, they were just beside themselves. They were like, ah. And then
Oh.
couple of the students that were on that to write that submission for the tree are also on this. So they've just been living the high life like
Yeah.
all year.
They've been
Yeah.
in like full on astronaut training all year.
Yes, and they are super excited.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
cool. Well, hopefully, yeah, that'll be fun. So you're just gonna plant it on school grounds somewhere?
Yes, so we planted it today out on like the east side of our building where you can see it from like the main road, but we're on a campus with the high school, but we also have a K-8 center that's attached to our like 100 and some acre campus.
Okay,
So
wow.
they can see it from their side, we can see it from our side, and you can see it from the main road, Discovery Boulevard.
It'd be fun to have like a plaque with the students' names on it or something.
Well, we're working on that. Actually, one of our former graduates was an electric engineer on the project.
Oh,
that-
cool.
Yeah. She graduated in, I think, 2014, Laura Mazarakis. And so the students are she's going to come to our ribbon cutting on Friday afternoon.
Oh.
And so, yeah, they're just so excited with all of this here at the end of the year.
Yeah, they're fully NASA'd out, which is
They are.
that's how
And
I
they-
like to be. So that's a good place to be.
Yeah, and they love it. So thank you so
Well,
much for everything.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah. Be coordinated. You guys do the work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bye.
Yeah.
Neil, let's see. So Neil, the answer to your question about PD credit, if you did the professional development in like October and November and August, we do give PD credit or clock hours for that because it's more like a training. We don't give PD credit out for mission advisors if you just signed up for the challenge. We will be doing another professional development workshop. It's an online one again, starting in August, and you get 13 hours. I don't know, you're in Montana. Yeah. So I don't remember how Montana works, but basically whatever I don't remember what you guys need, but it's 13-hour equivalent or 15-hour equivalent of PD. So sign up for that. But yeah, we don't do it for the challenge, to answer that. And yeah, the MSU Bozeman event's going to be fun. They always do a good job. Do you have any other questions for me? No? Are you still there? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and sign off. Oh, okay, all right, thanks. Have a good evening, and I hope the weather is nice in Montana for you. Bye.